Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. It looks like states are starting to reopen this week, but we heard you, listeners to the show. We got some comments reaching out to us about how long we went last week, and we know there's not a lot of sports on. We did the draft. We understand people aren't commuting, so you're not listening in your car, so we'll probably try to keep it short until things get a little bit closer back to normal. We get a lot of positive stuff on just trying to get some updates. So we're focusing on the NFL updates and what they're planning to do for the season today. But before we get into that, I got something for High Tempo, Matt. Gold's Gym, which was famous in the 1977 movie, I guess it's a documentary, Pumping Iron, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. They declared bankruptcy. So you can't get your pump on.
No pump.
Not only are you not able to basically work out, you're stuck at home just eating all day. Now, whenever things start to open back up, you might not even be able to go to the gym. It's going to be crazy.
Thankfully, I have the weights at home that I can use, so I don't have to worry about that.
Like James Franklin did, you could just take them from your condo. He went into, I don't even know if we mentioned that on the show. It might have just been a joke we had off the thing, but there were reports of someone getting into the workout center in their condo, and it turned out to be James Franklin was taking some dumbbells back to his room to work out. So, he's putting in work. Not allowed to be doing stuff, but go ahead, get a pump on. You can just do some push-ups at home. But, people are going to say that's bad for you. Can't get your joints in trouble, Matt. No running, nothing. That's what they try to tell you. You're going to hurt your knee if you work out, actually. It's better just to be a fat slob.
Well, if you get fat enough, then they can give you a cart, and then you can just ride around.
That's my lifetime goal, to get to 300 pounds. And then someone will always push you around. Then you're big, and you're intimidating, so people aren't going to steal from you if you're 300 pounds. You could roll and fall on them, break their leg.
I think that would be the person to try to steal from, because they're not going to run you down.
I don't know. I've seen some pretty good scooters. I don't think that they'd have a weight limit. You can rip around in a cart. Dangerous stuff. So, at least you can go outside soon. That's what's going to be happening. So, we got that coming for us. You got anything for High Tempo?
I do not have anything this week.
Have you been working out at home?
I have been. Trying to stay active. Actually, with turkey season being in, back out in the woods. So, being physically active. Although supposedly it's supposed to snow tomorrow, which is ridiculous.
Not down here, baby. Just rain. We don't get that snow stuff. I don't even know the last time I've seen snow.
Well, good for you.
I tried to come up when I go up to visit in Pennsylvania. It never snows. Christmas doesn't matter. Barely get anything.
Time.
I need to come up at different times, like May. That's when I'll know. That's when I'll get the snow.
Come up this week, you'll see snow.
I'm not doing it right. All right, let's get into our big topic. The Dolphins, Miami Dolphins. Actually, it's not even. The NFL is set to release their plans for the regular season, which is our main topic. I know, goofing around a little bit at the top of the show, but the NFL, man, they're ready to open back up, and they're going to announce their plan. Before they did, though, this had to have been a coordinated thing. The Miami Dolphins went on Good Morning America, and they had their plan. I think, let's be honest, I don't watch Good Morning America. I assume that's a morning talk show or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were showing plans, because that's what I didn't know, if it was like an online something. But they have, I don't even know where I got some of these, and some of these might not even make sense as I'm looking at them on the board. But they have a plan that they put out there, and they showed their stadium and how they calculated it. So for their games, they're going to start at a capacity of 15,000 fans. So that means that I think their stadium holds 65,000, similar to Heinz Field, right? So they're going to go ahead. I don't know what they're going to do with parking. I mean, I guess there's like no distancing in parking now if you go to the grocery store anyway, though. They're not like making you park a spot away from people, which I would think would be a thing because if you brush up against someone's car, but who knows? It's just me. I'm no doctor. They're going to let you go in at specific times. Now, I've thought about this, and the only way that this could really work is if they had parking sections, maybe. Like, I'm not really sure how they're going to get people from outside into lines, because 15,000 people, you think, oh, that's not that many compared to what they normally get. That's the amount of people that usually go to an NBA game or like a college basketball game. And it's still tough. Like, you're still waiting in line outside of the stadium. So they're going to have how many of different things. I think that's supposed to say safe standing distance for my next one for people that are on video. So safe standing distance marked around the stadium. And so I guess they're just going to have like little Dolphins fins or something. I don't know, at each spot. So instead of getting a number for a seat, they would just have it on the ground. And these have been measured out. And I guess they already did it because based on what they had on the graphic, that's how they calculated how many people could go into the stadium. Once you're in there, though, that's your standing spot. I don't know what they're doing for families. Because, like, what if you take your son to the game? Do they have to stand 6 feet apart? Did they put that into the ticket? Is it going to be 2 people per spot? Because, like, you're not going to go to the game by yourself. I guess some people would. But I would assume maybe they gave you a little bit more room. But once you're there, you have to wear a mask, or at least I think that's what they mentioned. Everyone wears a mask, and the servers will bring you food. Also wearing masks, basically like everyone has them. And so I've been to games like this. I've been to the Carolina Hurricane Stadium. They have a club level where they have, I think it's an app. I can't remember how we ordered, but there was a thing right there where you just put in your order and they come down, bring you your drinks and your food. And I loved it. It was great. And I could see that being similar with the Dolphins where you just put your stuff. The one thing, Matt, that stands out to me, can you guess what it is? Where are people going to be lined up?
Bathrooms.
The bathroom. And how many times have you been in the bathroom and you've thought, oh, that was nice and easy? Never. I mean...
It depends on when you go. Maybe they're going to have assigned potty breaks.
Hey, you know, you might be right. You know how they do like the, hey, if you're in row 15... in section A, instead of like saying you get a chance to win a free Dolphins t-shirt, it'll be like, you can now go to the bathroom. And then they're like cheering like, yeah. Because that's the one thing, even whenever you're, like I said, the parking outside, you're not going to be able to tell people like, yo, if your time's at 12:45 to get into the stadium, you're going to have to pay the $200 parking. Because like that's the only time. Maybe they're going to try to do that where they're like, oh, if you want to be in at this time, you have to be there. And if you're late, are they going to turn you away? Are they going to just have like rotating gates? I just don't know what their plan is. And the best thing would be is if they just had the markers outside on the sidewalk like you would do at the grocery store now and kind of what they're planning on inside the stadium.
Well, it sounds like with the designated times that they would almost do similar to how the airline services treat their boarding situation, so that everyone's not just storming the gates all at once. They allow certain people in at different times and try to get things done that way. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's a bad idea, and if they're restricting. You know, I know with the frame of reference of a typical college game or pro game, you're dealing with a lot more people, so there's a lot more going into that ahead of time. Where if you're not having as many, like if you're not going to capacity, you're not going to be traveling with as big of a group, so you're not going to have as many people slammed at the same time, I would assume.
See, you're right. It is a lesser amount, and fans go in and out. I mean, I've only been to a handful of NBA games. I don't even know how many I went to, but it wasn't many. But even like baseball, there are times where you're going to hit that many fans, especially in Pittsburgh when it's pretty empty, and you're still going to get certain lines at the gates. But if you can kind of get around that by like saying, hey, we're only going to have one gate or something, because I think that would make more sense if they kind of like coned off, like I had said, the parking lots where this parking lot gets released and the guy just tells them like, you got to walk in this direction, and they kind of just go clockwise around the entire stadium. Because whenever we went to that Pitt Florida State game, did you even go into the gate with us? We went in the student gate. This was back when Jameis Winston was making his first start, but that student line snaked the entire way around the stadium to get into the student section. And so you would have to, just have one gate similar to that where you're coming in, they were checking IDs or whatever they were doing. And then as long as, like I said, they had the tape on the ground, so each person moved up at a time, I could see that working. But I would like to see it tried at a smaller stadium. I would love to see hockey do something like this right now. And I don't mean start like tomorrow. I'm saying start in June. If things are really opening back up and you're able to have like a certain amount of number of fans or whatever, I would say, because they had already talked about doing this for like their playoffs, why not go to their original plan, which was like going to North Dakota or wherever they had those rinks built up, do a best of 3 for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs starting in June. Then you space out the games, whatever you're doing, like to do it safely. But there you can try with like a very limited number of fans, like a couple hundred spaced out. Then take that until July, and then do like a best of 5 in the conference championship rounds, and then do like the best of 7 in July. And then that's whenever you would open up like the home stadium and kind of give it a test run before the NFL does it. Because if their stadiums are only 2,000 or 20,000 max, you're looking at only 2,000-3,000 fans in that stadium. That's much more manageable in terms of seeing how logistic this is and getting the same amount of press, like the Stanley Cup final. Like, could you imagine if it's the only sport on in the summer? Like, that would get a crazy amount. They've already talked about the NHL regular season being pushed back till December. And I think they had a plan where they said they could either play a full compressed travel season starting in December, or they could do a lesser amount of games or whatever they were going to do. But I wonder if they've already started to think about this. And maybe they're not even thinking of doing a 3-game series like I had suggested. And they're just going to do the entire thing starting in June, 7 games, for opening rounds, and like whatever's in North Dakota, where all the teams are in the same place. You don't have travel. You have only the same venue staff that they could probably test to make sure they don't have it. The question comes down to, if a player gets it or they're positive, what do you do? And it's going to be the same question for the NFL. Like, do they have to go on the IR? Like, what's going to be the requirement there?
I would think that they would probably put them into quarantine and just treat them like they would be out in 2 weeks. Almost treat it like a concussion protocol type thing. If they have the symptoms or they test for it, then they're out until they're cleared. Just treat it like any other injury.
Because that was a thing the NBA did. They had seemed like they weren't going to close until their players all started to get tested. And then they tried to promote it like they took the high ground, but at first, their players were goofing around about it. So they could even do it, them or NHL. I mean, NBA has even less players needed.
But I think there was also a lot of people that were putting a lot of emphasis because of how nobody was really taking it seriously at first, that they had to take a really aggressive stance to try to force people to stay at home. But one of the things that I think that's going to be positive coming out of this is if they do follow through with the timetable that the Dolphins have set, and they're going to move forward with the season, it sounds like they're going to cancel the international games, and they're going to just have games rather than being played in Europe or in Mexico. They're going to just have those games just be played in the home cities. So that might be something to reduce some of the travel stuff for the players.
Yeah, because they didn't even release their schedule, right?
Jacksonville was supposed to be one of the games that was going to England, maybe.
Yeah.
I would say that they had 1 or 2 games scheduled out there. And now, obviously, with all of the quarantine stuff being in question, that would be a huge risk going overseas.
Yeah, that's why I would even wonder if they're going to redistribute some of the scheduling so that there's lesser travel. Because, like, if you were in another big city like New York, would you really want to travel to LA or another city that got hit hard? Like, I feel like they would try to limit some of that and try to keep it. I mean, they could go more of a regional schedule. Who cares? People just want to see football. Like, would they be mad if they like rescheduled the Steelers schedule so that they just played Midwest teams? Like, I wouldn't be upset. It might even be more of an advantage. I mean, it's only one season, hopefully. But we'll see. I think the last thing on here, I don't even know if I mentioned it, was they're going to do a row-by-row exit. But again, I don't see a problem with the exits. You just tell people to, like, keep your distance. I think everyone's used to doing it by now. You do your row and you have all the exits open. Once people are out in the parking lot, that is kind of up to them. Like I said, the logistics for me is getting coordinated in and the bathrooms.
Well, they already had it coordinated. I mean, they basically released what the Hurricanes already have been doing the last couple of years. So they had a really good model to follow. Just do what the Hurricanes have been doing since they play in the same stadium and they still have social distancing and everything else. It's the perfect model to follow because people aren't going to be close to each other.
I thought you were going to say that they put a tarp on the upper deck with people's faces painted on it. So it looked like there were fans up there. Like the old Madden 99 stadium look. That's the old Miami thing. Or like a camo. They're like, are those seats or what are those on the TV? You tell them, yo, keep the camera angle low. We don't want any issues with this. But Matt, I mean, on a more somber note, Don Shula died. The Dolphins, great. I mean, no wonder they want to have their season on time. If they push it back another year, there might not be anyone alive that remembers the Dolphins having any success. I mean, he was 90 years old. That's the legend right there. Great coach, undefeated team, right? 1973? Two? The 3 was a Super Bowl, huh?
Yeah. Well,
I always get confused on if I should use the season or the Super Bowl year.
Well, they won them both years. They were back-to-back Super Bowl champs, but they ended up losing in the regular season.
Oh.
Following year.
But yeah, they're trying to get up ahead of it. They have Tua coming in. I would think a delay is going to be good for him. I think they said, is it September 10th or 7th? They're trying to push some things back. Maybe. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's crazy when they go through some of the stuff with his coaching career, not realizing how long he had coached for and the number of players that had gone through. I mean, obviously coaching through the 70s, and I want to say he was an assistant coach on one of the Baltimore Colts Super Bowl teams, like Super Bowl 4, I believe.
I don't know.
Crazy.
Yeah, they still have the toast, don't they? Every year, whenever a team loses, the remaining members get together. So I wonder how many are left.
I would think there was still a good many of them left.
That's good, because he would hate to be the last one. That's my morbid tale.
A lot of the players are still going to be around.
You don't know. It's a long time ago, man. I wasn't even born yet. Look how old I am. And then you just think, like, those guys were out of college back then, winning Super Bowls. And now it's how many years later? So you have that. I hope that it works, if I'm being honest. I want to see some sports come back. Like I said, I think it would work better if the NFL is the first one to come back. I think it just makes the other sports looks weird, because LeBron came out recently, and I know we love talking about him, and he said something like, "Hey, no one I talked to said that we were going to cancel the season," and then the headline specifically said NBA executives plan on just saying the season's done. And LeBron, who are you talking to? Do you really think do I think that you're talking to the executives in the league? No, you're a player. It's not like they're going to call and be like, "Hey, LeBron, do you think we should be done?" And then, of course, he was upset about it. They didn't call him first, Matt. They called right to the media. But they don't care about the players.
Yeah, but you figure for someone like him right now, especially with the Jordan documentary being released, he's probably feeling a lot more pressure to try to win another championship. So he can say, "Hey, I won 3 different I won championships with 3 different teams." Put more distance between him and Jordan.
And people were making fun of me. You don't know how much hate mail I got whenever I proposed that they started to just have more meaningful tournaments throughout the year, and doing like soccer does with what do they do? Like a regular season champion, they get a cup, and then the other one. But I wasn't saying just give a participation trophy, because they already do that in baseball with the pennant or whatever. Let's go ahead and give another tournament, just call it something else. They already have the NBA Finals. Why not you have the Christmas Classic or something like that? And then that is another championship title for your city, and it's a single elimination tournament or something. Because could you imagine if we missed the finals, but LeBron has a chance now to come in fresh in December and win the first Christmas Classic? That'd be pretty sweet. Because you're a sports fan. I don't understand why people say, "Oh, well, why don't you just give all the teams trophies?" No. You don't know if someone's going to get hurt. What about the year KG got hurt? Kevin Garnett. And then that caused Boston back-to-back titles or whatever. 2 and 3 years or whatever they had. But what if he had another chance before he got hurt to win another title? Just a different title. Don't try to make it the same thing. You're not going to have 2 finals a year. You're just going to have 2 different trophies. If some fans think that one's better than the other, who cares? It's going back in the NFL when they have the champions or whatever. The NFL is just a little bit different. They don't have as many teams and as many games. So it's kind of different. You would almost have to do a totally different sport, 7-on-7. And then at that point, it's not the same. But basketball, they can very easily put together a tournament and have a title that's just as significant, similar to the NCAA tournament. Could you imagine the hype around Christmas season for a single elimination basketball tournament? I would think that it would rival college bowl games. Because for as much as people talk about the bowl games getting "Oh, look at all this." I mean, we talk TV ratings on this show. A lot of them only get 2 to 5 million people viewing. I mean, that's better than the NBA regular season gets. But if the NBA was going to say, "Hey, ESPN, every Saturday in December, we're going to do every Saturday, Sunday or whatever in December, we're going to do a single elimination tournament." So you have every team gets in, boom, and then on Christmas Day or whatever, we're going to have the finals instead of their 3 game slate or whatever they have. Do the Final Four on Christmas, and then have the championship some other day. I think that would be a slam dunk success. And then people would be people would get pumped back up then for football, because then you would go from that tournament right into college bowl season, like on like the big bowl games on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. So I know people were talking trash to me, but it's like, why? Why are you so invested in a championship that some other guy is just making up? They made up that tournament how many years ago? Like someone just decided like, oh, this is how we're going to crown our champion. Why not just decide now that you're going to have an NCAA style tournament? And who knows? How do you know that they're not going to get more viewers in that tournament? Because it's only one game. You're only investing in one game, Matt. I would think that a lot of more casual fans would be more into that tournament than the NBA Finals, because who wants to watch the same teams play 7 times potentially? It's tiring.
Basketball fans probably.
I don't know. 7 times is a lot. Especially if they're like, some of them are blowouts.
Well, some of those, they're not going to take it to 7.
Well, yeah. But like I said, I mean, it's very easy. They could just do a single elimination tournament. They've been talking about it. I'd rather have that than have them like do these weird G League tournaments and like try to have a second G League that they're talking about promoting with like a title and all these like players that they're paying out of NCAA schools. Like, why are you going to poach college kids, put them in the G League and try to make like a G League champ? Like that, to me, that's not appealing to me. I'm into college because most people have like a tie to a college team. Like they went to school there, they know someone that went to school there, maybe their parent went to school there. Like there's usually like a connection. You grew up by there, you've been to a ton of games. G League, no one's grown up by a G League team. You're not going to grow up and be like, you know what, one day I'm going to go to G League school. Like it's a very small thing. It's not like the pro teams are built into the city. The G League doesn't have any of that. So do a single elimination tournament. Start it right now. Like I said, start it this year. Just announce like, yo, we're going to have to cancel the NBA Finals, but we've decided that we've talked about it for the past couple of years. We're going to do a single elimination tournament, and it's going to count as a title for the winning team. We're going to have the first one. It's going to be this year. We're going to consider this to be on the same tier as winning the NBA Finals or whatever, very similar. Just give it a different trophy, a different thing, players jumping around. Someone gets hot.
Well, I want to say that it was Bob Huggins that had that proposed. With this way, there's no... He said, you know, when you look at the start of the college basketball season, there's so many different tournaments and all these preseason championship things that are meaningless. If they looked at what the seeding was going to be from the March Madness tournament this year, and just say at the start of the year, instead of having all of these random holiday tournaments, different things, we're going to have, the championship tournament at the beginning of the year, so that it crowns the national champion for this year. So those teams that were qualifying, like there's not a year that it's just they don't have a national champion for it. They can play it out, and the winner of that tournament will be the champion for the 1920 basketball season. And then they roll right in with their conference games. And even if they do something like you're proposing, where you make it more of a pod-based or regional, where you're not having teams travel as far, then you're still playing some of those games. And it leads right into your tournament, that if things are progressing, on a positive way, that they could potentially go back to having the tournament, and now we're back to normal.
Well, that was one of the things I was looking at too. I didn't even think of college, but you're right. They could just have a tournament to start the season, and whatever happens, like that's it. I also wonder if, like, and I know college is a little bit different, so they're not going to name 2 national championships in a year, but like you were saying, the opening tournaments that are meaningless, a lot of those schools, like, they take those tournaments just because they don't want to have to pay for smaller schools to come to them. So I would propose, like, why not even make those regional and do it almost like a bowl game? Like, why not have a couple just different 16-team tournaments and then have them kind of mean something? Because, like you had said, when we talked about this in the fall, I vividly remember looking to see, I wanted to see if Maryland's, like, Mark Turgeon, like, they won whatever small tournament they were in, and I wanted to see, has he ever won a tournament before? I couldn't even find the information. And I think I tracked down that they had, like I found the news article where he had before, and then I was thinking, okay, here's a coach that the knock on him is that he can't go far in the NCAA tournament. Well, what if you had like a record of all these preseason tournaments that he actually did coach and win in? Like, what's the difference if you're winning one tournament and not the other? Like, I understand, like, one at the end of the season, if you're not winning, that's the big one. People would notice. But it might take some pressure off if he's having kids graduate. They're ranked. I mean, they're ranked in the top 10 in there or whatever half the year, and they're still talking about, well, you know, if he doesn't make it past the Sweet 16 again, we might have to fire him. Like, to me, that's just crazy. So, like, why not just make, like, I don't even know what you'd even do, kind of like the Orange Bowl, but, like, you have, like, the Orange Bowl where it picks a couple of different teams, usually from each conference. Like, you have one or two teams from each conference, and even the smaller conferences, and then, boom, that's a tournament. You have some in the Midwest, some in, like, Hawaii, whatever you want to do, because that's what they're doing now. They're traveling to the Bahamas. Just pick a couple of different schools, and then you have that, and then have that be a tournament that, like, you promote with your program. Could help recruiting and things like that, especially for newer coaches. It might be a way to get that into them. But speaking of, I think my last thing for the final bell, speaking of recruiting, well, two things first. Louisville, the NCAA decided while everything's in quarantine to hit Louisville with a coaching warning. Part of those like things that they've already warned. Did they warn Kansas even? Like they warned a couple of schools, was it a year ago now, that they're going to be hit with NCAA violations. We haven't heard anything about it. Then randomly, they just tell Louisville, like, yo, you're responsible for Rick Pitino, even if he's not there. It was kind of like a pat on the old shoulder, like, we know he got you that title against Michigan, that cheating one, but we're still going to hit you with some sanctions too. Because, like, it looks like he paid that guy. It's going to look bad for us. But at this point, the entire thing looks bad, Matt. Like, just let him go. Because whenever they start to pay athletes, because it looks like it's going to pass, all these schools aren't going to matter. Like, if Papa John's is really mad at Louisville, do you really think he's going to be paying for top dollar athletes to go to Louisville? He was already joking. Well, then we have a tweet on the show where he was like at Kentucky saying that he's ready to switch to the blue or whatever. Like, those are the guys that are going to be paying sponsorships. Like, hey, go to Louisville. I'll give you a sponsorship. I'll pay you $10,000 or whatever to say you eat my pizza. That's how recruiting's going to be done. It's not going to be Papa John slipping $100 to you under the table. It's going to be pretty blatant which schools are going to be able to pull the top recruits and which ones aren't. So I would love to see it, because I think that would be a way to even it up. Like, if some smaller schools are going to be like, yo, we can't compete anymore, and then they just have their alumni donor place come out and be like, oh, hey, if each alum gives $20, we might be able to do something like this. Have a sponsorship from our bookstore or something like that. Or, yo, if you alum that owns a car shop, instead of you just randomly showing up with a Rolls Royce down in Georgia and you're like driving it around their field, like, now you can actually be on the television commercial. I mean, there's that old commercial floating around if you want to look it up with Ed Orgeron selling Hummers at Ole Miss. So now it could be some player instead. But I had one more topic for the final bell. The Hokies, Matt, they're mad. I know we had the Hokies mad at us the one year because we were, it was like whenever they were going through their coaching change, we didn't like the direction they were going. Doesn't look like they're going up. But they're mad because UNC, the Tar Heels football coaching staff, looks like they've been recruiting. And so I have two examples of this where the coaches themselves, and I think they've both been deleted. I know the DeWitt one definitely was, because I hurried up and grabbed this image from OX_VT on Twitter. It says, hey, NCAA, isn't the dead period till May 31st? Palm trees don't grow like that in North Carolina. Oh, look, it's UNC cheating again. And the tweet from Coach DeWitt, his hashtag is Coach DeWitt, it says, hit the road early this morning. Time to get some hashtag recruiting done. So it's a picture in Florida. And then, Matt, surprisingly, there was also a tweet that he put out where he was at a restaurant sitting down and eating in Florida. And then he said, yo, if you're wondering where I am, and he like took a picture of the front of the restaurant. I thought, aren't they closed for eating in? Like, is he old tweeting? Like, is he just posting old tweets? Or is he actually out there recruiting? And then I guess there's another one. So Jay Bateman, Coach Bateman, at Coach Bateman is his Twitter handle. It says, back at it today in Virginia. And then it's a picture that says, Virginia is for Tar Heels, which makes it very clear, Matt, that he's recruiting in Virginia. And then another Hokie fireman, or I guess the at is backwards, Fireman Hokie on Twitter said, wait, didn't the NCAA and ACC football ban recruiting travel, which it's supposed to be dead until May 31st. And you had two coaches within the past couple days both tweet that they're out recruiting. Bad look, Matt, or not?
Well, it's a bad look if they're actually out traveling. If they're just being idiots because everyone has to do everything virtually, then I guess it is what it is.
I just wonder, were these scheduled tweets? But then again, like, you'd have to think, okay, like maybe they just had this, like the restaurant one stands out to me because there's a good chance he wasn't actually in a restaurant eating. But then again, you're a coach. Maybe you are. Maybe you know the owner. I don't know. And so I wonder, like, did he have that picture teed up from last year and he's like pretending that he's like hanging out at this restaurant, or did he actually go there? Get some food. I mean, you can go into a restaurant. You can go get wings right now. You just have to get out of there. You can't sit down and eat. But I didn't really see. I should have had that picture ready to go, but I don't. Well, he might even deleted it. I don't even know. Deleting the tweets. He definitely deleted the tweet. I didn't have the original, because if you look at this photo here at the bottom, it says Twitter for iPhone. That's Hokie Fireman. His response was in Twitter, but if I can't see the original, I don't know how it's sent. If it said like sent from Hootsuite or some like scheduling software, then I would know. Like, I'd have a better feeling like, oh, they planned this out and they just didn't delete it. Like, bad on their social media team. I mean, like, bad social media teams.
I happen to have witnessed several.
So, I mean, that's my last topic for the final bell. You have anything for us?
Nope. Just keep showing your love. Message us. Let us know what you think, what we need to add, what you want to see, and we'll try to accommodate you. Yeah,
definitely. Like we've been saying, if you want to come on, even just talk some sports about your favorite team. We've had some people talk about it, and then we're trying to follow up, get some other teams maybe on. I think we had a guy that was a Bears fan wanting to come on or something. So hopefully we can get some guests like that. If not, we'll try to get some other stuff rocking in the summer. I'm hoping that something comes back. Like, I hope you could hear in my voice, I'm just wanting anything. Let it be a miniature hockey tournament. Give them the cup. Don't go a year without it.
Today, so we'll have some sport.
What's that?
MMA will be back Saturday.
Is that the island thing? Did they get that?
Yep. With President Trump's approval.
We'll see. I mean, that should be good. So at least we'll have something to talk about. But thanks for listening. Trying to keep it a humorous show. Pretty dry, but whatever. Hopefully you like it. And if not, hopefully football's back soon. We only have a couple months left to go. We're already in May. So stay safe. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.